Still blue sky surrounding the circuit here at Surfers Paradise. Massive crowd as we get set for the V8 Supercar Top 10 Shootout. A lot of intensity down there in pit lane as the final 10 grid positions, or the front 10 grid positions to be exact, are sorted out. Mark Ostler and Matthew White, there is plenty at stake here, even though the championship's been decided.
Geez, Billy, take a look at the numbers of the people that are here on race day for the V8 Supercars and, of course, qualifying for the Champ Cars. They're out in their thousands. There is plenty at stake. You're dead right about that. I mean, pole position has been really a battle between two people this season. Mark Skaife and Marcus Ambrose both have 4 pole positions each throughout season 2002. So there's a bit of one-upmanship to be played out here. We know one thing, the Fords have been very quick so far. Rusty?
Matty, for our viewers that were watching just prior to the break, you may have seen what looked like a fairly animated discussion between Greg Murphy and the driving standards advisor, Colin Bond. Now, the reason for that, Colin is actually travelling through the pits at the moment, just canvassing various drivers. This morning, you may have seen earlier in the show that we've had a bit of a drama with those witches hats around the track, which they've removed now. They're saying to the guys, look, we're still going to be policing curb hopping pretty closely, but they're just getting an idea of how the guys are coping with it right now.
Righty, how was that session?
It was good. You know, the morning warm-up, you normally just want to try and keep it off the walls and, you know, just make sure the car's all good for the top 10 shootout coming up.
We've got this guy here, Michael Clem. He's turns up at every end. Are you a bit of a rev head?
Oh, I'm a motorsport fan for sure, and I'm a fan of Jason as well. And, yeah, no, hopefully he'll do well this weekend.
What brings you here other than the motorsport? You just enjoy the atmosphere?
Yeah, I love the environment. I used to live on the Gold Coast for a year, and Gillette and Braun have invited me again to the Indies, so I'm here supporting Jason and everybody else. I guess the atmosphere is pretty good. So
you guys worked out a deal to give him a run in the 3-seater?
Actually, I was just thinking it's probably it's going to be just as wet in there this afternoon as it is in the pool, but yeah, we'll give him a run at the end of this year, hopefully.
All the best this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks.
Jason Bright and Michael Clem there joining us on the streets of Surfers Paradise. Both one-time locals around here. Clem's moved on to hopefully get his swimming career back on track after his back injury. There's Jeff Greck out of the Holden Racing team. And this is the chat that Rusty was talking about between Greg Murphy. So a bit of a replay of Murph talking to Colin Bond there, the standards man from Avesco.
Avesco driving standards. Yeah. And this is the sort of debate that's been going up and down pit lane.
You can run straight over the top of that. Everyone is actually respecting it now. I reckon maybe a tyre width and a half off over the curve. Now, everyone else
Tyre width and a half, he was saying there.
This is yeah, we just wanted to stop chatting there for a sec to hear that conversation. This is what's going to cause a fair bit of debate, I think, Matty, in this race, because with the removal of those winches hats, it comes down to the observer's interpretation of what a width and a half of a tyre is. And boy, if you get a driver taken out doing a drive-through penalty based on that observation, there could be some very hot heads down there in pit lane.
Brad, 3/100ths of a second off being the fastest in that session. You now must be spewing that you're not in the top 10 shootout.
Well, I'm a little disappointed, and you know, made a bit of a mistake on that lap and scooted over a curb. So you know, who knows what it would have been. But I'm really disappointed. But you know, it was my own fault to miss out, and so you know, that'll teach me to try a bit harder.
So you think you could have gone faster with that lap?
Well, I skipped over a curb over the back, and it slid me into the next one. So yeah, not much though, maybe a tenth or two. So the car is very, very good. The boys have worked really hard. John's car is obviously fast, and you know, it's just a pity that I'm not in the top 10.
Is it enough, do you think, with the pace of these cars for JB to take pole in the shootout?
Well, it's hard to know. I hope so. He's doing a fantastic job, and you know, coming off a pretty big high at Bathurst in terms of qualifying. So you know, he's my man. I hope he can do the job.
Either way, you're both looking good. So good luck this afternoon.
Oh, I think we're strong in the race. Thanks.
The bad news is Bradley Jones won't be in the top 10 shootout. The good news is his teammate will, and obviously both Fords are very quick now. These are the top 10 shootout contenders. Now, these times were set in qualifying yesterday. What you just saw was the warm-up. So the time to beat 1:51.00, an extraordinary time set by Garth Tander during qualifying. He'll be the last man out in the shootout. John Dow, second best. Jason Bright, Greg Murphy, Marcus Ambrose, Mark Skaife, qualified 6th fastest. David Bernard there in 7th. Craig Lowndes out in 8th. Max Wilson, the Brazilian, will be 2nd out. He qualified 9th, and Stephen Richards will lead us off. There he is, car number 16, the one-lap dash. This is the race against the clock.
Second place at Mount Panorama 2 weeks ago with Russell Ingall. Stephen Richards, his best qualifying performance in top 10 or top 15 shootouts. 4th place, 1 at Canberra and 1 at Mount Panorama. But it's really important to get a good qualifying position here, as we've seen on the streets of the Gold Coast. We've had 7 different pole position holders and 7 different race winners since the V8s first appeared here in 1994. So it just goes to show this really does throw it right up in the air. There's no predictability in this run for pole position. A number of star drivers claim it over the years. John Bauer, Mark Scaife, Murphy, Lowndes' own one, Stephen Ellery was running hot here a couple of years ago. Russell Ingall, Garth Tander last year. So who's it going to be this year? Could it be Stephen Richards in the Castrol Commodore, running hot at the moment? Was right in that battle for victory in the Bob Jane T-Marts 1000, right up into that final sprint. They'll be looking for a big finish to the year for Castrol Perkins. Here he comes onto the Caltex Havilland straight to start his lap.
That was the important one, wasn't it? Getting the heat into the tyres, making sure that everything is set up perfectly on the Caltex Commodore. 3rd in the championship. Stephen Richards gets the green flag on his one-lap dash. Will it be clean? Will it be fast? He's the first man out. Oh, no, straight away, a big lock-up, and he completely made a mess of turn 1.
Well, he's chopped that Honda chicane down quite dramatically. I'm not sure whether the officials will disallow this lap, because they may consider it a massive gain, maybe not, because of the time he lost with the lock brake. We will find out. But they've been very, very tough on curb hopping and corner cutting of any description. Hard under brakes down into turn 3. Stephen Richards not perturbed by that mistake. He's still going to keep his foot into it. Thunders up here toward the Esplanade. Hear the tyres screaming. You can hear the tyres screaming on the Castrol Commodore. That shows the tyres aren't quite up to temperature yet. They're still grappling for grip, which is quite incredible. It's high temperatures here. Track temperature almost 40 degrees. And they're still struggling to get enough temperature in this rubber for 1 lap.
This is Richo's 8th shootout, 11 rounds of the championship. His first season, the Castrol Commodore Larry Perkins team. He'll be taking over as the main man there next year. And we understand that as he works through the Foster chicane, this lap will be disallowed.
Yeah, I thought they'd do that.
He's out of the running for pole position. Never had a pole position in his V8 Supercar career, and it's not going to happen here no matter what time he finishes with. The officials have already ruled that that mishap on turn 1 was too much. They've disallowed the lap.
Larry, they've disallowed the lap, apparently jumping curves.
Yeah, well, it's really weird this morning because there's no witches' hats, and our regulations say you're not allowed to hit witches' hats. So if there's none there, we haven't been briefed on what we're supposed to do. And this morning warm-up, you could choose any lap time you wanted. It's really Rafferty's rules now.
Thanks, mate.
Well, that was more than a curb hop. He went straight across the second part of the chicane, and there was little chance of him getting away with that one.
Well, he has posted a 152.719, but they can forget about that on the timesheets, and this is why Stephen Richards locks it up big time.
Can't make the turn, and he just goes straight across. That's not a curb hop. He went inside one of the witches' heads. So naturally, they came down heavy on him there.
Max Wilson is lining up his lap now. Grant Denyer in pit lane.
Well, you just saw how hard this circuit is on cars. It is also extremely tough on the drivers. The Ford teams are trialling some new breathing technology here. This is Paul Wheel's helmet. There's the fan induction system to his helmet. Down in the car is a new filter system that they're trialling from 3M, which takes out a lot of the toxins that are in the air and associated with street circuits. Kim Flanagan is just with us here, mate, at the moment. How effective has it been so far?
Well, it's proving to be effective. I mean, it's pumping in about 220 litres of clean air into the helmet, which is a big improvement on what we've been using in the past. We're usually getting about 160 litres into the helmet, but the 3M product is really showing some potential.
Let's hope it's enough for an edge this weekend. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Max Wilson in the better electrical Ford, driving for John Briggs Motorsport, comes around to start his hot lap. Hasn't he been a sensation in the qualifying so far? His best effort in the top 10 shootout, 3rd at Oran Park. And he was just amazing. He had to learn this circuit this weekend. He'd never seen it before. Spent the practice sessions just learning his way around it. Right at the dying moments, the dying seconds of that practice session, he nailed a top 10 spot. Quite extraordinary.
He doesn't live too far from here, but he obviously doesn't pay too much attention to the streets of Surfers Paradise when he's just at home relaxing. A 30-year-old Brazilian. He's 34th in the championship. But I think really doesn't pay justice to the kind of impact that he's had in his first full season. As Mark said, he's just been awesome in qualifying, so quick. Hasn't managed really to put it together in the shootouts that he's been in. But remember, this is his first full season in this standard of racing, and this is his 9th shootout in 11 rounds. It's quite remarkable.
There'll be a lot of these Champ Car drivers watching the performance of Max Wilson, because keep in mind, Max competed in Champ Car racing last year before making the switch to V8 Supercars. There are a number of top Champ Car drivers. I know Jimmy Vasser, Dario Franchitti, a number have expressed interest in driving V8 Supercars, and they'll be watching the progress of Max Wilson with interest, who's made the transition pretty well. PlayStation 2 shootout clock tells the story. Time to beat Stephen Richards, but that has been disallowed. So effectively, Max Wilson will lay down the time that everyone has to shoot for out of the Foster chicane. Down toward Falcon Corner, hard under brakes, 190 kilometres an hour on the approach there. Out of here, up toward FedEx, very close to the concrete wall. This is a real street circuit in the true tradition. You can see the bumps, you can see the manhole covers. You can see how difficult it is for the drivers to guide their way through these concrete walls, and for the engineers to get the right setup on the car. Final turn on the hairpin. It's a tricky one. It's proved tricky for the V8 Supercar drivers throughout this weekend.
He was quick on both of our street circuits that we've already had in the series at Adelaide and at Canberra. What type of time is he going to lay down here? The clock stops at 1:51, 4:88. Under 1:52, that's a good time from Max Wilson. And with Stephen Richards out of the picture, that's the time now for the 8 other contenders who are still to come to beat. What a feeling. This 4.5-kilometre circuit, you've got it all to yourself. Lined with concrete barriers, high rise, beach on one hand. On one side as you come up the Esplanade, thousands roaring around the track, and you've got it all to yourself for almost 2 minutes. Flat out racing. Rusty?
Well, Alan Heapy's with us, guys, and the interesting thing about Craig is, Alan, he's been banking his good laps on the first lap. The one-lap flyers seem to suit him.
Yes, he's always been very, very good on a cold tyre, and the car's working very good for him at the moment around here. And for some reason, he's an exceptionally good driver anyway, but he's very good around these road circuits. He loves them, and like I said, the car balance is good, and at the moment he's rolling on pretty good. So let's hope he can sort of pop a good one out here.
At the end of the warm-up, was it a case of leaving it alone?
Sorry?
At the end of the warm-up, was it a case of leaving the car alone?
Yeah, we've hardly laid a spanner on the car all weekend. I mean, a few little clicks here and a few little clicks there, but nothing sort of too major. It's come away from about this pretty good. To get into it.
He's made the top 10 shootout 6 times this season. His best was when he took pole position on the streets of Canberra. It all came unglued when he crossed that blend line coming out of the pits. He certainly had the speed that weekend on the streets. Here he is back in the same sort of territory, a genuine street circuit, all sorts of curbs, bumps, concrete walls to manoeuvre your way through, and Lowndes, the great improviser, great street fighter. And he's stepping up for the challenge here.
One of 5 men in this top 10 shootout who has had pole position at the Gold Coast before. Lowndes, he did it back in 1998. And until the race gets underway, he will still have the lap record around here. Set it a couple of years ago. The Holden Racing Team Commodore, that for sure and certain is going to fall this weekend. That's the sector time he's got to beat. What we'll do is we'll throw up some green and red boxes. The green one says that he's underneath the time. And in fact, he's underneath Max Wilson's time by 0.2 of a second. So Lowndes looking good. The 3-time series champion in the 00 Motorsport green-eyed monster cleanly through the first sector.
Down to the Foster chicane. Reduced the number of witches hats there. Look at the way he guides the car off the curbs. 1,350 kilos of Falcon V8 Supercar. Here the tyres still scrabbling. You can see they're tortured there, screaming out for more grip. Very hard to get heat into the tyres, even with this temperature. Look at that. He's now 0.4 faster than Max Wilson after 2 sectors. So a good, consistent, fast, hard lap from Craig Lowndes. There's his teammate and our co-commentator this weekend, Neil Crompton, watching on. Didn't make the cut for the top 10, but he'll be certainly hoping Craig Lowndes can nail it for the 00 Motorsport team.
Here he comes. Craig Lowndes comes across now to complete his 1-lap dash. Let's see the time. It's a good one. Well, it is in fact a 150.822. Our clock there just kept on going. I can tell you he's gone underneath 151. The first man to do it all weekend, the first man ever to go under 1 minute and 51 seconds on the street circuit of Surfers Paradise. What a lap from Craig Lowndes, 150.822. He's the quickest out there at the moment.
That is going to be tough to beat. That was such an accurate lap.
Oh, yeah.
Let's have a look at the Nintendo replay as he came down through Foster's chicane. Look at how tidy and accurate this was. Well, it really was. It was just razor sharp.
Stevie, they're on to you about jumping curves, but there's not much you can do about it at that time.
No, well, you know, I mean, I made a blue, went in too deep and paid the penalty. After that, it was all over.
What about this afternoon? It's going to be hard work from there.
Yeah, it will be hard. There's no doubt about that. But you just got to keep hanging in there and plugging away and see where we end up. You know, it's a long race, and I think car feels pretty good, so no, we'll be right.
All the best, mate.
Thanks.
David Bernard, can he improve on his best performance in the top 10 shootout so far? He's taken 2 fourths, one at the second round at Phillip Island. Latest one was at the Queensland 500. And after the shattering disappointment of Bathurst, this brand new car out of the Stone Brothers stable, what can David Bernard do? On home territory.
Yeah, well, he's been on a roller coaster ride, this man, David Bernard. Queensland 500, first man to get a Ford across the finish line and collect the Blue Oval's first round win of the season. Then, just a couple of weeks later at Bathurst, he had the disappointment of having no car to start with. He jumped in the seat with Glenn Seaton, which was a great show of sportsmanship, and unfortunately didn't end up finishing there. In the meantime, they've rebuilt him a brand new car, and here he is in the top 10 shootout just a week after they put the finishing touches, or in fact just days after they put the finishing touches, because they were still working on it just days ago. They tested at Queensland Raceway a couple of days ago. They found some good speed in this car, more speed out of Marcus Ambrose's car. The first sector time, 49.94 is the time to beat. Is Bernard underneath it? No. He's a little outside that.
Stone Brothers Ford with that characteristic plume of black smoke coming out the exhausts. Very rich fuel mixture to try and produce maximum horsepower. Come down here under brakes into a Foster's chicane. Got to get this one right. Got to get everything right. Craig Lowndes has really thrown down the gauntlet. Look at the amount of air he had under the left front wheel there as he flung it through Foster's chicane. Hard under brakes. Little lock on the front there. Just managed to pull the nose of the car back toward the apex. Hasn't mucked up his lap too much, but you can see David Bernard is attacking and attacking hard here. He's got a hell of a time to beat there from Craig Lowndes, a 158.2, the fastest time of all weekend.
The tail getting really loose around turn 10. Now the Honda hairpin. The Caltex Havoline car comes down the Havoline straight.
260 kilometres an hour they'll reach here.
See how much time he lost with that lock-up. David Bernard, 151.162, second on the time sheets. The time
51.1, Dave. Repeat 2. Lowndes at 50.82. Still all in the last sector, but it was a bloody good effort, mate.
It was a hard, charging, flying effort up on 2 wheels around the back part of the circuit, and it just makes you wonder what these guys are thinking about the time that Lowndes has set down, a 150.822. In qualifying to make it into this session, we thought the 151s were brilliant. That was the big lock-up that cost him coming into turn 8.
Look at this, that meant he ran a little bit deep, went beyond his ideal apex through the corner, and it was a real juggling act there. Cost him a bit of time in the end.
Craig Lowndes, a fantastic lap, the first person all weekend into the 50s.
Well, it's great. It's you know, the car's been sensational really since we pulled it out of the trailer, and that's what you got to do. Especially a circuit like this, you don't have a lot of time. But you know, we're very happy. We're just going to sit and wait now and see what the other guys do.
That's great.
Thank you.
As far as tyres go, 4 new tyres?
Yeah, 4 new tyres. We kept the full set from yesterday, as we did with Bridie as well.
50.8, hard one to chase.
It's a bloody good lap of Lowndes. He said he was, you know, it was a good clean lap on the edge, so it's going to be a tough time to beat.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah, we will. Let's hope it's straight.
Well, if one man knows what Craig Lowndes can do behind the wheel of a car, it was that man, Jeff Greck. And if he knows what Mark Scaife can do, he is certainly the one. Listen to the crowd roar as they appreciate the 5-time series champion. What a season. 4 pole positions. It's all wrapped up for Mark Scaife as we put you in the passenger seat of the Holden Racing Team #1 Commodore. Gets the green flag on his flying flap and is really flying.
Yeah,
Turn
close.
1.
He goes to the outside wall there through that kick on the Caltex Haviland straight, just brushing the wall on the way out. This is really threading the needle. Very fine here. Big, powerful, heavy car. Hear that Chevrolet engine revving hard as he thunders down toward AAPT Mobile Corner. This is why these brakes get such a workout around here. You go from high-speed straight to low-speed corner, one after the other. They never get a chance to recover. Out here onto the Esplanade. Right up against the concrete wall. Scaife using all the track that he can get those tyres on. He's got a hell of a time to beat too. A 1:50.82. Not only the fastest time this weekend, the fastest time ever for a V8 Supercar around here. He's 1/100th of a second outside Craig Lowndes at the first sector.
Oh, doesn't that give you a great view of just how demanding this circuit is as Craig Lowndes swigs a drink and watches his former teammate try and eat into that incredible time. The next sector time to beat is a 1:23.288. Scaife is right on the hammer for this one. Through the Foster chicane, up to 220 kilometres an hour. Backs it right off now. That's where David Bernard came unstuck. No problems. Through Falcon Corner.
It's incredible, that shot. Scaife has the setup on the car with the steering wheel right up in his chest. He's now slipped almost just under 2/10 of a second slower than Lowndes, up to 2 sectors. You can see him just physically muscling this car around this circuit. Final turn, the very tricky Honda hairpin that leads onto the final straight. And can he make up almost 2/10 of a second in the final sector?
He's going for his 5th pole of the season, his 28th career pole, but at the moment, Craig Lowndes still has the top time. Scaife does a 1:50, but not good enough to beat Lowndes. 2 men.
3/100ths of a second.
What did you guys get? 50.85. Lowndes at 50.8.
Only 2 men ever have taken a V8 Supercar around this circuit in less than 1 minute and 51. Lowndes and Scaife. We've got more to come in the top 10 shootout. This is your home of motorsport. We're at the Honda Indy 300 and halfway through the top 10 shootout. The Gillette V8 Supercar Challenge. Live and exclusive to 10, Marcus Ambrose behind the wheel of the Pertec Ford Falcon. He has been a shootout specialist this year. Like Scaife, 4 pole positions in the 11 rounds or 10 rounds that we've had before this one.
Haven't been so lucky in the races, have they? But certainly in terms of qualifying pace, Marcus Ambrose is one of the guns. Linked up with Ross and Jimmy Stone last year for his rookie season. What holds here for Marcus Ambrose? He's been very fast throughout practice and qualifying, but that's a heck of a time to beat. You can see Mark Scaife using everything he had to try and beat Lowndes. He came within 3/100ths of a second. I don't know how you'd even measure that if you park the 2 cars alongside each other.
I think you'd have to get your ruler out and get a lick of paint.
Isn't that staggering though? 4.5 kilometres of racetrack, 12 turns, and 2 cars can finish within 3/100ths of a second. The level of competition in V8 Supercar, I'll tell you, it's no wonder these Champ Car drivers want to have a crack at it.
I think we can expect some pretty big things of Marcus Ambrose because he's got all the right ingredients. He's got a super quick car, we know that, by the times that he's already posted in qualifying and the warm-up. This is a driver's track, if you like, and it takes a lot of guts and determination. He has got it all, this man, Marcus Ambrose.
That is so quick through there, that Caltex Haviland straight. When you stand there on the other side of that catch fencing in the pit lane, watch these V8 Supercars come through there. It is awesomely fast.
What a matchup it is, Ambrose versus Lowndes. It's only on the timesheets at the moment. They're very similar, very happy-go-lucky, blessed with immense talent behind the wheel. Both have had experience overseas. This man's only a relative newcomer to V8 Supercars in his 2nd full season. He's been electrifying, the best of the Ford Challenge out there in a season that's been dominated by the General. 49.9 is the time to beat first up for Craig Lowndes' first sector time. This will give us an idea as to how much inside or outside Ambrose is out at the moment. 2 tenths.
Well, that Lowndes lap was just scintillating, wasn't it? As you watched it, it was just so pin-sharp accurate. And he really did throw down a tough job for these guys. When you get a guy who goes out there early and does such a brilliant lap, it even adds to the pressure because the guy driving the car knows that this has got to be not only good, this has got to be brilliant. And then there's always the opportunity for them just to overcook it, just to push themselves a fraction too hard, and then they've had to abort the lap.
What makes it even more difficult is this part of the circuit that he's right on now. You can see that he's 4 tenths of a second behind after sector 2. There's no way in the world he's going to make up that around the last part of the circuit because it's the tightest, most technical, tricky part of the track. The car is off camber right there. The car wants to go the other way. The driver is pointing it to the left. The car naturally, with all the weight and speed behind it, will start to go over to the right because that's the way the road goes. Coming flying down Caltex Haviland Straight. It's not going to be good enough to go to pole position. 4th at the moment, 151.305, almost half a second.
Good lap, that's P4, mate.
Behind Craig Lowndes. He does it so calmly behind the wheel, and the man who normally holds his breath is with Greg Russ, Mark Scaife.
Well, Mark, a damn good lap, but it was just by the narrowest of margins that you missed getting Lowndesy.
Yeah, look, I mean, I struggled on pretty hard. It wasn't really a perfect lap in any way. Rusty, I was a bit out of control of the second chicane, and I didn't really have quite enough front tyre temperature early in the lap, but late in the lap it was great. And, I mean, the car's good. It's a good race car, and we've just got to stay out of trouble this weekend. Press on with New Zealand.
Best of luck for the race, mate.
Thanks, mate.
He's still got this weekend. Now, this is the Simulcam technology we unveiled at Bathurst. You guys wanted more of it, so here it comes, comparing Craig Lowndes and Mark Scaife's area there through the Foster's chicane, and you can just see just how far ahead that 00 Motorsport Ford Falcon is in both terms of time and position on the track.
Well, we can see they were synced at the same time, so that's exactly where they were on their hot laps.
Have a look at it again.
And you can see Lowndes and Scaife very even here, but look at the amount of room Lowndes puts on Scaife through the Foster chicane. Look at that.
That corner speed is incredible, coming off those 2 bumps right in the middle of the chicane, and Lowndes seemed to just fly away like a jet while he was still with 2 wheels in the air. Car number 51 is Greg Murphy.
Yeah, what can this man do? That Lowndes time is still in danger because this man is on a mission. You can still feel the steam coming out of his ears after that decision to put him out of the Bob Jane T-Marts 1000. And there's a brilliant shot from the back seat of the Kmart Commodore. Look at that. Riding with Greg Murphy down through the concrete tunnel that is the Gold Coast Street Circuit. Look at him muscling that steering wheel out of turn 3, right up against the concrete wall. Murphy on maximum attack.
In many ways, that's a better view than the drivers get. There's not much you can see from the driver's seat of a V8 Supercar. Look how low down he is there, just peering over the dashboard, just enough, the bare minimum, to make sure that everything is set up perfectly for Greg Murphy.
Oh, look how close it is.
1/100th of a second behind the time of Lowndes. The Kiwi Charger is out there.
As we saw from that Simulcam shot, though, Lowndes was brilliant through the Foster chicane. That's where he really got some ground on Mark Scaife. So the pressure's on. Murphy's got to get this absolutely spot on.
That's it right there. Here he comes through. 2 wheels. Pushes it nicely. Looked okay from this angle. 6 career poles. He's had a pole position here before, and he's also won a race.
Oh, this is a good lap. This is really, really sharp. He hasn't put a foot wrong so far. Now it's 9/100ths of a second outside of Lowndes. Not even a 10th of a second in it. What can he do in this final sector? He's in this with a hell of a shake. A little bit of power oversteer as he flings the car out of that final turn. And now out of Honda hairpin. Final run onto the straight. He's got to get a good point
absolutely
out of there.
nothing in this. The start-finish line is just down towards the bottom of your screen right now. You'll see it. Watch the clock. 1:58.23 is the time to beat.
He's done it. Nice lap. Well done.
50.70. What a flyer from the Kiwi, Greg Murphy.
1/10 of a second. Can you believe it? He dug deep there in that final sector.
Last sector, mate. Good last sector.
And you can see the team confirming that last sector was a ripper.
They're happy down there in the Kmart garage. We'll take a look at this replay and then we'll join Rusty down there. Look at this. This is AAPT Mobile Corner, turn 3, and look how close he gets it right to the concrete. Hold your breath, because here he comes. What a lap, 150.703. Rusty.
Rob Crawford, you blokes rode every corner of that lap with him, didn't you?
Yeah, we certainly did. He got a little bit close, but yeah, all ended pretty well.
Yeah, good effort, mate. Well done.
Sorry, cheers. Got the radio.
Yeah, it's difficult.
I can see why, because he's just been on the edge of his seat for around about 2 or 3 minutes. That was an incredible lap, and I guess it shows you, as you take a look at the sea breeze coming in there too, that's going to play some havoc. The temperatures, track temperature around that back part of the circuit, I guess it shows you just exactly what you've got to do to lower the time around here. I mean, he was right on the limit almost every turn. He was inches away from every concrete barrier. He was up over the curb at every curb that he came to.
I can guarantee he was on the limit at every corner. Every one of those 12 would have been absolute heart-in-the-mouth stuff. And he was so close to the concrete wall. And it just goes to show when you've got to beat Craig Lowndes after such a great lap, the 00 Motorsport Falcon, you have to dig a little bit deeper. Murphy did. I don't know how much further these guys can go. Jason Bright will find out. That is a tough time to beat. This is the fastest V8 Supercars have ever been around this street circuit. There's Mark Scaife watching on. Team boss John Crennan in the background. The order at the moment, Murphy, Lowndes, Scaife. So at least 2 of those TWR Australia Commodores are in the top 3. Can it make it 4? This man holds the key. Jason Bright, car 2, the Holden Racing Team Commodore.
He qualified 3rd and did that with a 1:51.06. He's going to have to lower that pretty much, well, by a second, really, to get inside the time of Greg Murphy. Car number 2, it's a brand new one out of the Holden Racing Team. And until just the other day, when they built David Bernard's car, it was the newest car out there in the field. Through turn 3, not as far wide as Murphy did on the exit of that turn. Now the Bartercard corner brings you onto the Esplanade.
Just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Removing a few of those witches' hats through the Foster chicane, has that given them just that little bit more track width to be able to get these amazing lap times? 150.7.
2/10 of a second outside the Kmart Commodore at the moment. He's had 1 pole position this season, Jason Bright, at Hidden Valley. And amazingly, he's had 6 seconds. Believe it, in qualifying. If he picks up another one, he'll go to the top of the all-time list. Through the chicane.
Nice tidy lap so far from Jason Bright. He's got to pick up the pace if he wants to challenge for pole here. It's TWR Australia stablemate Greg Murphy. Really throwing down the gauntlet to everybody. An amazing time, a 150.70. Well, it's almost a second now. He's outside of Murphy's time, so Jason Bright well out of contention for pole position after 2 sectors.
He's looking at a 151, which will put him down around 4th or 5th position at the moment. His teammate Mark Scaife currently has 3rd position on the grid. His best time at 150.85, and there hasn't been a round go through where we've seen too much between these 2 cars. 7th position, so he lost a lot of time. 151.88 for Jason Bright. One of the lowest qualifying starts he'll have had all season. In fact, that is the lowest that he's had all season.
He is capable of turning on some great speed.
Man to beat, though, is Greg Murphy. 150. Awesome. 0.70. He's with Rusty.
Well, Greg Murphy, we heard on the radio that you thought you'd actually mucked up that lap, but it wasn't the case.
Well, the first sector was a bit ugly. I thought I went pretty late on the brakes into turn 1, and then by the time I got there, I was getting off them to try and go through a bit quicker, and then I locked a brake into A&A, and my exit was pretty bad. But the rest of the lap from there was good.
In terms of yesterday and the warm-up today, did you feel you had the car to bank that sort of time?
Yeah, definitely. You know, we've just been cruising in the warm-up this morning. I missed a gear and cost us a bit of time on the front straight here. And yesterday, you know, we were happy with what we did. So today, we, you know, pretty sure we had a pretty good car. And fingers crossed, someone won't go quicker, but you never know.
Thanks, Murphy.
Thanks, mate.
Greg Murphy, well, there's been speed to burn out of this man, John Bow. 25 career pole positions. Started on the front row of the grid at Bathurst. He put his teammate, Brad Jones, alongside Mark Scaife. Green flag on the 1-lap dash. The second last man out, only car tandem to come. 150.703. You have to get under that. You want to get pole position here. He's won 4 races on this track. The question through Aussie Mile Racing has always been, can they get the heat in the tyres quick enough to put it down for the 1 lap?
Was on pole position here the first time the V8s visited, right back in 1994 when he was driving for Dick Johnson Racing. A lot of water has passed under the bridge since then. The veteran certainly held his head high. He's won just about everything there is to win in Australian motorsport. Former Australian Drivers' Champion, Sports Car Champion and V8 Supercar Champ. And didn't he set them out in the line and qualifying up there? That was just fantastic. Using all his experience and showing that even though he's considered in the older age, and look at the time here. He's almost 3/10 faster than Greg Murphy after the first sector. So John Bowe, what can he do? The Aussie Mail team watching on. They'll have everything crossed down there in the Aussie Mail team. He's got to get this sector right, though. Down toward the Foster chicane.
Bradley Jones is loving it. If it's clean through here, there shouldn't be any drama on the timesheets, because 2/10 of a second inside the time of Murphy is going to put him right on the 150 limit. 123 is the next one. 23.38. That's the next stage to beat. What is he? 22.977. Oh, he's going to come close to doing a 150 flat. This is awesome stuff. The 48-year-old Tasmanian in his first year with Brad Jones Racing. He's been in 7 shootouts. The boss loves it in the pit. And so he should, because right now John Bowe is staring down another pole position on the streets of Surfers Paradise.
What is this time going to be? He comes down 260 kilometres an hour down the main straight. He crosses the line.
Second, he's just missed out by 6/100ths of a second.
Well, he must have mucked up that final sector, because he was 4/10 up. And Greg Murphy.
Murph thought it was gone. He thought it was all gone, and so he should have, because that was just incredible.
Amazing. A 150.76, 6/100ths of a second slower than Greg Murphy. He had 4/10 on him after 2 sectors. He lost it all in that final sector.
The team boss saw it all go away just in the last minute there. Grant Denyer.
Brad, I thought that was going to be the lap of a lifetime.
Well, it certainly looked like that. He just said on the radio that he made a mistake in the last sector, but he was certainly going fast, and he was a bit nervous before he got in the car. But really, you know, he's doing the job. He's second, third at worst, and from there, you know, anything's possible. So looks like we're not meant to get a pole position so far this year, but hopefully we can roll one up in the next 2 rounds.
What sort of mistake was it to take that time away?
I don't know. I just heard him say that he'd made a little error, so, you know, who knows. It's hard towards the end of the lap, when you know it's good, not to be a little bit too on the cautious side. And, you know, he's just dumped 3 or 4 tenths there, and it's enough for Murph to sneak by us by a couple hundreds.
At least he's looking sharp for tomorrow.
He certainly is. I'd much rather be 2nd or 3rd than 11th, but let's see what happens. It's a long afternoon.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks.
Shows you how much pressure there is in the V8 Supercar Championship these days, but a former series winner, a man who's had around 160 starts, can still be flat out nervous before one lap dash. So Garth Tander now is the sole man left in the top 10 shootout. Remember, in the warm-up, he parked it into the wall down at the A&A Hotel, which is turn 3. There was rear damage to this car. We understand they've pieced it together with bits of car 35.
Yep, Jason Bargwanna's car has been cannibalised to try and get Garth's car back into shape for this run. Unfortunately, they lost a bit of that warm-up time. The car's pretty competent, and he's one of the great improvisers, this guy. This is, of all the tracks in Australia, this is probably the one where setup is less critical. It really does come down to the driver being able to lift the car, physically lift it, get it to do what you need it to do. And here he comes now, 260 kilometres an hour as he starts his hot lap. The last man to run in the top 10 shootout, and boy, he's got a challenge on his hands. A 150.70. You can see it there from Greg Murphy, fastest time ever by a V8 Supercar around the streets of Surfers Paradise.
Through the Energex chicane, Valvoline Cummins Commodore up to around 220 k's an hour. He'll remember this turn that he's coming up to, because this is the one that cost him dearly in warm-up. Any problems this time? No way. Garth Tander goes through. 50 flat is the time that he's aiming for throughout Sector 1. He won 2 out of the 3 races here last year and had pole position. Let's watch the clock now. Car 34 versus car 51. Poles on the line in the first full championship round ever held on the streets of Surfers Paradise. He's 2/10 of a second outside of that.
A little bit untidy on the approach to the Conica chicane. As he comes out of there, he's already 0.25 down Greg Murphy. So this second sector, and as we've seen with some of these runs, you can actually make that time up if you have a sensational run. So So it's not time to back off now. Just guides that inside wheel up over the curb through the Foster chicane now. Hard on the brakes again, as if they haven't had a big enough workout already. They're being asked to do even more work, very sideways, as he comes out of that turn down toward V8 Supercar corner through FedEx, and he's now almost half a second slower than Greg Murphy. So Murphy looking pretty safe. Pole position for the Gillette V8 Supercar Challenge.
Remember, 22 laps of racing still to come this afternoon as the Honda Indy 300 becomes a full-time doubleheader for the very first time. Garth Tander comes down the main straightaway, 260 Ks in 8th position, and that means that Greg Murphy, with a time of 1:50.703, will start from pole position for the Gillette V8 Supercar Challenge of 2002. It also becomes the first man ever to get 2 pole positions for the V8 Supercars on this circuit. That's how they'll start. Murphy will start alongside John Bowe, Lowndes, Skaife, Bernard, Ambrose, Wilson and Tander. Make up your 8. We'll be back. Only 4 men managed to post times in the 150s throughout the top 10 shootout. This man was the best of them. 150.703, 6/100ths of a second better than John Bowe. For the first time this season and the 7th time in his career, Greg Murphy will start from pole position. He's with Greg Rust.
Well, the silverware is here for Greg Murphy, his 2nd ever pole at the Indy circuit. The trophy to be presented by Ian Coleman from Gillette. Well done, Murph. Great effort.
Thanks, mate. That was great. It was a nice recovery from our disasters at Bathurst, and to come here, I love this place. And last few years have been pretty dry for us on results, but this year the Kmart team have done a great job.
Congratulations, mate. Here's the award for winning pole.
Well, thanks, Ian. Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best.
They're all pretty happy, aren't they? And they should be. Gillette getting behind the V8 Supercar Challenge for the first time. The numbers are pouring in. Quite literally, they've been here all day, and a lot of these guys are here to see the V8 Supercars and then get the Hollywood and glamour and glitter of the Champ Cars. That's, of course, coming up a little later on, qualifying. Billy Woods and Neil Crompton to take you through all of that. Let's go down to pit lane now in Grand Canyon.
Well, JB, the first 2 sectors looked fantastic. What happened with the final sector?
Yesterday, my last sector was the best part of the lap. Today, it was the worst part of the lap. So what could you do? I mean, the double chicane, I was a bit careful because I didn't want to go over too, you don't know whether there's a fine line between going too far and not far enough. And I was a bit cautious. And the last couple of right angle corners, I was a bit heavy on the gas. So, just not good enough, mate.
It's looking good for the race, though, for you, mate, at least in terms of a starting position.
Well, it's a big help. I mean, it's quite a long race for these cars on this circuit.
It certainly is. 22 laps. It's the first time that they'll do it. As we said at the top of the show, they've, over the last few years, completed only 10 or 12 laps. It's just been a flat-out sprint to the finish. This one's a little bit longer this time around, 100 kilometres for the V8 Supercars. Brakes will be the big issue.
And we've got a compulsory tyre change, which is something we've never seen on the streets of Surfers Paradise. Champ car teams and the V8 Supercar teams sharing the pit lane. Should be quite a moment.
Yeah, well, they're just making the changeover now. The V8 Supercars move aside and the Champ cars take over pit lane. They take over the whole streets of Surfers. This is the Honda Indy 300.